Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is part 2 of Jonathan's custom videos. If you haven't seen part 1, link in the description, check it out. We talked about his future Rolex, whether or not he should buy it in Japan, the differences in the dials and which dial he should go for. And if you haven't seen that, again, check it out. But in this video, let's talk about what he has. Now, we know he has a Tudor Pelagos. He bought it as a beater, but then decided it's too nice of a watch for a beater. Totally agree there. But it's not quite as nice as the watch we're going to be talking about in this video. And this is his, I would say, his main watch. And for a long time, a couple decades, he's been a one-watch guy. What is this watch that he has? Well, let's get into his email. He writes, I currently have a GMT Master 2 16710, bought in 2001 in my home city of Glasgow. All right, so that would probably be either probably a K serial or a P serial. I bought it when I was 21, and it was my Grail watch then. But that was then, and while I still love it, I have a chance now to mix it up a little. And he's talking about getting that Sky Dweller that he wants to get. I would never sell it, as my dad came with me to buy it at the same place where he bought his watch 20 plus years before. And his dad's watch, by the way, is an Omega DeVille. And I've since had 20 years of living in memories with a GMT on my wrist. Wow. I mean, you're a one-watch guy, even though you've got the Tudor Pelagos. And I mean, I'm emotionally attached to my watches, and I haven't had any for more than 7 years. So to have a watch for 20 years, that's great. Cool anecdote. Your dad came with you. You bought your watches at the same shop, and that's got to be an important watch, and I can see why you would never sell it. It's just good to know that it has kept its value so much, because I'm certain that you didn't pay the going rate for your pre-ceramic GMT. And you know, it's just nice to know that while you would never sell it, that it's maintained its value and it's still a very desirable watch. So what a cool piece to have. I would like to purchase a Pepsi bezel for a change. I know it's not true to it, but I would keep the original bezel. And depending on the price, I may also get the Coke, as it's a close call on what I prefer. Can you advise where I should go in Japan for original parts? I have seen many parts in your videos. Again, happy to go on that journey with you. Let me know if you want to make that happen, Jonathan, when you're here. But yes, you can get parts here in Nakano. And if you were coming here with a 1675 or a 4-digit vintage piece, I'd say they're likely going to have you covered. But strangely enough, they're more vintage pieces versus the more neo-vintage pieces. Interestingly enough, they didn't have a tritium insert for my 14060. It was just too new. But when it came to something like a 5513, they did. So, you probably could find an insert. And if you wanted something like a fat font serifed insert, which you don't seem to have, I don't know if you serviced your watch and had it changed out, but if you wanted to get something like that, that would be the place to go. Bring your money, by the way. It's going to be expensive. But if you just want a service insert, then there's no reason why you can't go to RSC, and perhaps they don't do this in Denmark, but here in Japan, you've seen it in my videos, you can take your GMT there, and it takes them about a week, but you can have your insert switched out, and it's about $150, $50 for the service fee, and about $100 for the insert, and they'll give you back your old insert. Now, some countries don't do this. In Japan, they do. Some countries, you can't switch out inserts to different colors, period. And if you do, they won't give your old color back. But here they do in Japan. And look, I would check to see if they do it in Denmark. If they don't, you could have this done in Japan. And, it takes a week. It actually probably takes them 20 minutes to do it. But they want you coming back. I think they don't want people stopping by for 30 minutes and getting an insert and popping back out. And no, they won't just sell you the insert. They insist on doing it and performing the service. And so you're going to be here 2 weeks, and I've had other viewers who have come in, and they've sped it up a little bit. They didn't make them come back in a week, maybe just a couple days, if you tell them your situation and that you're just here for a short time. But if you hit RSC while you're here, then early on in your trip, then possibly you can give them the watch in a couple days. You can get back your Pepsi, all right, your new Pepsi. And then what you would do is you would, I guess, just sort of walk out and walk back in, or just say, okay, give it back to them, and then they would put in the Coke, which would be super weird, but they possibly would understand what you're doing. I have a feeling that if this becomes a thing here in Japan, RSC tourism, that probably they'll stop doing it. But apparently they do it because I've had a viewer do it. So yes, that's what I would recommend if you want the service insert. And again, there's nothing different between the service insert and the later GMTs, the later 16710s. I'm talking like 2002 or later. But the early 2002s and before had the fat font serif bezel inserts, and so obviously they're not going to have those, and so you would need to go to Nakano for something like that, all right, and that'll be significantly more expensive. It's interesting because you can get an insert for $100 plus $50 at RSC, but that same insert on the internet or at Nakano would probably be $200 or $300, all right? And that's because while you can get them, you need a GMT to get one, and once you've gotten them, you can't get another one, all right? So yeah, I could talk about inserts all day. We should probably move on. All right, but yeah, you can do that, and that's what I would do while you were here, if you didn't want to do that in Denmark. So, okay, and he has a PS here, and he's talking again about his Pelagos, and he says, I also wear the Pelagos mainly on the rubber strap and have been considering an alternative rubber strap if I buy the Sky Dweller, maybe even go tan ostrich skin. I know all this switching parts makes me sound like a Philistine, but I believe that you should enjoy your watches, and as long as you don't try to pass them off as something they are not, then why not have some fun? I totally agree. I mean, changing straps can be fun, mixes things up. If you just have a few pieces, changing straps is a great way to engage with your watches and give them a different look, and just fiddle with them. It's fun. For me, I can only do aftermarket third-party straps for just a couple of days, and I start really wanting the original bracelets. By the way, you could also get a Jubilee bracelet for your GMT if you were here, and that would be very expensive, but it would give it a look. And if you get your inserts between the bracelet and the inserts, that's 6 different looks. So it looks like you're kind of ready to move on to something different, the Sky Dweller. So I can see why you might just want to concentrate on the Sky Dweller, but if you do want some different looks and want to continue wearing your GMT, that's something that you could look into while you're here. Again, I would call and see if Denmark RSCs don't do it, because there's no reason to do it here if you can just do it there. But again, sometimes RSCs are really funny about parts, especially in other countries. They're surprisingly liberal about parts here in Japan. Probably one of the most liberal countries in regards to RSC. So kind of interesting. But all right, and he ends with this: when I go to that one black tie event a year, it would be back on that beautiful unscratched oyster bracelet in all its glory for me to enjoy. Okay, it sounds like you're not wearing your bracelet because you want to keep it minty. Yeah, that's a good reason. It's interesting. As particular as I am about my watches, I don't really worry about the bracelet so much. And yeah, that's weird. It kind of surprises me that I don't put, like a third-party bracelet on it to keep the original ones minty. But yeah, I just don't. But I'm kind of surprised I don't. I guess I feel like I could just buy another bracelet if I really wanted to. And I think I would rather wear the hell out of the original bracelet, 10, 20 years, and then get another one. I like that more than NATOs and leather straps and all that kind of thing. But yeah, that makes sense. And he says, I have spent 20 years with a pure example and am now at an age where I care not what others think. Yeah, well, you're 40, and I hear that happens in your 40s. You just start not caring. All right. And hey, I guess it's true. I don't care what anybody says about this thing, right? But that's great. It's a great story. It sounds like you've got a great watch, and man, I can't imagine the emotional attachment you have to that watch. And excellent, excellent. All right, Jonathan. Well, thank you very much for these custom video requests. And I think buying a Sky Dweller here is a good idea. Bring your money and contact me when you make some plans, and we can work something out. I can find some pieces for you to check out, maybe even go and hunt down the pieces with you, maybe negotiate. I likely could get a little bit off, all right? Just a tad off. So that's something to keep in mind. And as far as the bezel inserts go, assuming you can't get these at your RSC in Denmark, then plan on bringing your GMT and going to RSC near Tokyo Station pretty early on in your trip, and just tell them what you need. Tell them you're here for 2 weeks and you'd like to get your Pepsi insert. And yeah, and if they can hook you up in a couple days, then that's great. And then turn right around and maybe go out, have lunch, and then come back and say, I want the Coke now. And again, it's worth considering a Jubilee bracelet if you really want to fit out your GMT. Again, it's pretty expensive, so I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to do it. And as far as the other inserts, you know, the vintage inserts, the original inserts, the fat font serifed inserts, you can find those possibly at Nakano. Expect in the range of, I want to say, $300, $400, $500. I mean, they've got, I just saw on my old footage, look to the left, there's an insert that's over $10,000. All right, so insert prices can get pretty crazy. Anyway, hope that helps. Let Jonathan know what you think, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.